An intellectual carrot. The mind boggles.
You see? You see? You're stupid minds. Stupid! Stupid!
Earth has had Santa Claus long enough. We will bring him to Mars.
I've been afraid a lot of times in my life, but I didn't know the real meaning of fear until I had kissed Becky.
One thing will be clear. It's not for man to interfere in the ways of God.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Earth vs. Soup, episode 168. I'm Aaron Pollier.
And I'm Darlene.
I'm glad.
And Aaron found a good one.
Okay, I did, I guess. I'm really glad we watched this. This is Dr. Blood's Coffin from 1962. And you might be saying, oh, Aaron and Darlene, damn it, you're watching another horror film. This isn't really science fiction. Again, I will say, horror and science fiction, especially pre-1970s, pre-slasher films, are almost one and the same. They are the same thing. And does this have a science fiction aspect to it?
Way, lots of it.
It is it is like integral to it. You just don't see it up until the end. But the science fiction aspect of this is there. You just wouldn't label it as science fiction from today's standpoint. This is sci-fi, though.
And this does something that James Bond does.
Okay.
Has a scene before credits. I don't know what they call that.
It's pre-credit sequence. That's what it is. We both have not seen this movie before, correct?
That's correct. Oh, did we say it was 92 minutes?
No, and it's on Amazon Prime in color for free, and it's really good quality.
And it's from the UK.
Now, I'm going to geek out a little bit about the people behind this film. Obviously, we're going to be recommending this because you're going to listen to this review and realize that, holy crap, we really liked this film. The director is Sidney Furie. You might recognize him as the director of Superman 4, which, fair enough, Superman 4 isn't that great of a movie, but he did like Ladybugs and the Iron Eagle movies from the 1980s. You might recognize those. So you might not think that he's like a super good director. He did a good job here. We have two actors in the lead that we have seen many times before, or we should be seeing in the future many times. The lead is a guy named Kieran Moore, who plays Dr. Peter Blood. We have seen him in such films as Day of the Triffids. He was the person with Jeanette Scott in The Lighthouse. And I know you were like, I don't really remember him from Day of the Triffids. And once I said, oh, look, he's with Jeanette Scott. Okay, I know who you're talking about.
He's got that stereotypical square face.
He's a handsome man.
Yeah, but it's just like the stereotypical.
Yeah, and he was in a ton of good films throughout. He was in Crack of the World. He was in that. So the lead, the female lead is Hazel Court. Hazel Court we have seen before, and we should be seeing again as we go through more of the Hammer horror, slowly but surely. She was in Curse of Frankenstein, which we have seen. She was Elizabeth in that. We liked her in Curse of Frankenstein. She was one of the better actresses in it. She's actually in Devil Girl from Mars. She's not the lead in Devil Girl from Mars, but she's in it. We liked that film. I thought I think we said that we enjoyed all the actors and actresses that were doing a damn good job in it. Tons of good films that we've seen her in. Both these people, top notch.
What did she do in Gadget?
In Gidget?
Go up.
What are you talking about? Gidget? She was
Gidget.
in a TV series, Gidget.
Yes, I know.
Laura in one episode of the TV series.
Okay.
But regardless, she is fantastic in this. And while we were watching the movie, you and I both, I stopped it. I said, Darlene, she, in this movie, this is 1962, she's 30 something years old. She's 36 at the time of filming this, 35, 36. So she's not your young, super young female lead, and it doesn't matter. I said, look, she's charming, she is beautiful, but she is middle-aged. They don't hide that fact either. She's played as though she has lived a life. She had a her character. What's her
Was a
character's name?
widow.
Is
Nurse
Linda?
Linda Parker.
Yeah, she has a
I'm
a
sorry,
life.
I was reading it.
Yeah, she has a life before the movie begins, and I hate this argument that's made that, you know, after a certain age in Hollywood, you're just not a female lead anymore. You're kind of a supporting role or whatever. And I said, no, this is the example of a woman who's not hiding her age. She's playing a middle-aged woman. She is still beautiful, but
She's competent.
she's a competent woman. She is able to stand up for herself in many ways. And the reason why she is a good female lead, in my opinion, is she is playing a competent character, but it's also that she has chemistry with the male lead. There is chemistry here, even though the male lead is actually the villain of the movie.
Spoiler.
Spoiler. Is it a spoiler? We learn it in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
No, you learn it after. There's a definite part where if we go through the plot, I will tell you where it is.
Okay, so
that it definitely tells you it's him.
let's see here. It is about 10 minutes into the film, according to my notes.
Where
It's when he's in the cave.
Yes.
So, if you don't want to have any spoilers for this movie, stop our review right now. Go and watch this. We highly recommend this film. When we watched it this morning, we were both engrossed in it, correct? Like, to the point where I had to pause the movie to take notes because I was so, like, taken in by the dialogue.
And I'm glad you did, because I was still writing notes and I was missing what was going on.
But that was the point. Like, I was so engrossed with what was going on screen between these characters, like the dialogue between characters, that I wasn't taking notes. And I'm like, oh crap, I have to go back. Darlene, listen to this whole piece of dialogue between Linda and Dr. Blood, where they're talking about the morality.
That was great.
That was great. And there's like lots of little touches in it. Obviously it's heavy-handed to us, but I recognize the symbology that's being in it. They're having this talk about ethics.
It's not heavy-handed when you think about that it's a setting that was there.
Yeah.
Okay? They planned it and they didn't just put it in there.
Yeah,
so I would
there.
consider that heavy-handed.
Yeah, sure.
But it was already in several of the other scenes.
Yes. So stop the review if you're really wanting to watch this film. Geek out about it. Come back and listen to us talk because
we both recommend us.
We're both going. I highly recommend it. This is a movie that I feel that we haven't seen this quality of a movie.
It's up there with one of those unsung heroes like Megalith Monster.
The Megalith monsters and things.
Great actors, great story.
Yes.
Great
pacing.
Execution.
Yeah.
There's
only
I didn't
one
want
complaint.
to walk out and get my tea.
I only have one complaint about the entire film, and it's petty.
What is it?
Bad day for night shots.
Well, yes.
That's it. That's my only
petty.
complaint. That it is petty because this movie was good. This is the definition of it.
Still today see day for night shots
that are bad. Like
that
this was
bad.
Very clearly day for night shots.
High.
That's my only complaint. Spoilers for our own review when we get to it of our, like, what doesn't work in this movie is day for night shots. That is it. So let's go into.
Oh, and I got a good comment on this.
Okay.
They used the environment for scenes that made it worthwhile.
Worthwhile.
Because
what do you mean?
You're down in Cornwall, and you're actually like a visitor there.
Sure.
And it really, you get introduced to some stuff and you're like, God, I want to go there.
I'd like to visit there. Yeah. I mean, I would like to visit there. I mean, that's
too,
King Arthur land. down in there. But anyway, stop the review here. We're going to go into the plot, come back, listen to us. So we'll begin. We begin in an operating theater, and a doctor is conducting an experiment that another doctor walks in and says that he has been banned from. Now, we don't see the doctor's face. I think this is slightly silly because we're immediately told that this is Dr. Blood that's masked and talking. Plus, Kieran Moore's voice is fairly distinct. He doesn't say it.
The old doctor goes, stop. And he does a good Vienna.
But the guy is like talking. Yeah, he has an Austrian accent. He says, you've been banned from this. We have told you this is a terrible thing that you have been doing. It goes against all medical ethics. And he's like, but I have made this discovery. And if you just let me do it, I can change the world. And the older doctor is like, screw you. You're out.
You do not experiment on people.
Yeah, that's what it all is that he's experimenting on people. And I guess
living people that are not.
There is a living patient on his operating table at this point when this doctor comes in. And he doesn't mask up either. This is so important for this older doctor to come in and stop it. He doesn't get properly scrubbed up. He's like, no, you're done. Get the hell out. Right?
Yes. And I appreciate that old doctor.
Damn straight, because he is right. And one of the major overarching things that comes across in this movie is medical ethics and more generally scientific ethics. What it means to be a good scientist / doctor, why you need to get permission from people to experiment on them, and you don't harm people. Do no harm, right? Like that's the point. Where Dr. Blood in this movie very, very clearly does not care.
Dr. Peter Blood.
Yeah, there's two Dr. Bloods in this.
There's two Dr. Bloods in this.
He has a father that is a old country doctor. So anyway, let's go.
So the old man kicks him out. Get out. And we find out later this is a Vienna
medical school,
medical lab for biochemistry lab.
Yeah, it's not a school. I shouldn't say that.
It's
You're right.
Not a school
because he already has his doctorate, and this is kind of like a research facility.
So you're looking at somebody that's went through 9 years of school.
Well, who knows how many years?
Plus a few more, because he said he was there for 5 years.
Yes, and so he comes from this little town. What's this village called, Darlene?
Believe it or not, don't know.
I never even wrote it down.
Pithcarney 10 Mines is all I know.
Okay, so we go into the credits, and then we have a doctor that comes into a small village, and we're told by a nurse. See, now this is Dr. Blood coming into this town.
He's coming in, and there's a group of villagers
that are
outside of the pub talking to the police officer.
A sergeant.
Yeah. It's Sergeant...
Sergeant Cook.
Cook. Okay. I knew it was a simple name.
And that there's been another disappearance in this village. And I thought, okay, hold on. This is going to be a problem. This is early in the film. We haven't really discovered what is what's happening. There's or why this movie is good.
Criminal activities too.
Well, there's been multiple break-ins into the elder Dr. Blood's medical office.
And excuse me. And what happens at that point is that the Dr. Senior Blood, Dr. what's his first name?
Robert.
Dr. Robert hands Nurse Linda,
who's played by Hazel Court, who is our lead, our female lead,
a whole bunch of packages that say fragile, and he says one of them is the new microscope. Yeah,
and she goes into the office at this point and sees that there's been another break-in.
And Dr. Robert goes to see what's going on with the rest of the... Yeah. Because somebody calls him over.
So the villagers are wanting to search the countryside for whoever is actually kidnapping locals and breaking into things. The only break-ins have been at the doctor's office, supposedly.
That we know of.
Besides, the kidnappings.
There's kidnappings and there's just disappearances at this time. Because she goes in, gets
Well, she sees
she
the
goes
place
to-
has been ransacked.
The refrigerator is open.
Yeah, and like chemicals and drugs have been taken.
Yes. And she looks around and comes back out. I gotta say, this is a woman that's got
She has brains.
she's got brains, but she's also got a spine because she doesn't go screaming out of there.
Yeah.
I get tired of scream queens.
Oh my God, there's been a break. Yeah. She calmly looks around, notes exactly what's been taken, and comes back out and tells the police officer and the senior Dr. Blood. Credit where credit's due, strong female lead. Yes, she's not a soldier. She's not like this giant fighter. She is a competent woman who is not just terrified and not the damsel in distress. She gets into issues later on, but she's never like freaking out.
I noticed that they use the same fridge for their milk as they do for their
For like
chemicals.
for the chemicals. Yeah, it's okay, big deal. So we are then taken to a cave.
That's a big deal in today's.
Where we're taken to a cave where Dr. Peter Blood, the younger Dr. Blood, is putting a person on an IV drip. And basically he's keeping people knocked out with chloroform. Or let's say he's knocking people out with chloroform because he has big bottles of it, but he also is keeping people on these IV drips that are supposedly keeping them unconscious.
Isn't that what he stole there from?
Was chloroform? Yeah.
Not well, it was the chloroform. I thought it was plasma.
He did need plasma as well, but there were other chemicals that he took.
Because that's what he took out of the refrigerator.
Now he gets some equipment out of storage in this cave, right? There's people that are on IV drips. It's clearly he's doing experiments
on
now.
log.
They're like bodies laying on logs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he ends up getting like a syringe filled with some sort of drug. We're not told what. And a couple things, like a small bottle. He like fills up a small bottle of chloroform, and he goes into the village that night. Now he goes into a home and knocks out a guy. Just knocks him out.
He
like
takes
in bed.
chloroform
Yeah.
to his mouth and knocks him out and takes him there. And his
Well,
name
no,
is
no, no.
Bill.
Okay, so Bill, hold on. There's
Beale.
more that happens.
Beale.
Okay,
Like Beale Gardens.
George Beale. Is that no?
Yes, that's him.
Okay, so there's more that happens in this room though. He knocks him out and then ejects him with something. Okay, but on his way out, he drops the syringe and it shatters on the ground. Okay, he doesn't notice that though in him dragging this person out.
In Bill's bedroom.
Yes, so he drags him out and then pulls him down through like this cave system into these mines to bring him into his lair. Okay.
Then
so
the next scene is
a man walking into a doctor's office and he's staring at the nurse's ass.
Yep, that's
and we're like, okay. And this is Kieran Moore as Dr. Peter Blood, the younger Peter Blood. Okay.
And I said, well, isn't this kind of sexist?
Well, and I'm thinking it sort of is, but it's not like they're lingering on the shot of. They're not like letting the camera sit on her butt. They're
it's just
not.
Showing what he's looking at
Very quickly, and then it pans away. And she's chagrined by the fact that she was kind of bending over and doing something.
She was filing something in a filing cabinet.
And it's not like she was wearing revealing clothing either.
No, she's wearing the typical nurse's hat. With even the hat that is a see-through one.
Yeah, but her like the nurse's jacket and everything. It's
well,
it's not a jacket. It's like a blouse and it's like a long
the
blouse.
Dress.
Yeah.
It's the whole dress.
You're not seeing anything here. And you thought, okay, it's going to be one of these movies. She's going to be the damsel in distress. Boy, were we wrong, right?
I got to say this. They keep her in high heels all the time.
Yes, they do.
Which I even think in that time in the 60s, they had those
Pumps?
nun shoe, what we used to call the flat nun shoes.
Pumps.
No, not
little
pumps. She's in pumps, but what?
I don't
even
understand women's fashion, so I
even
apologize.
in the 60s, maybe it was the 70s. You start having nurses take those flat, cloggy looking shoes.
Okay.
That at the time when I was growing up, were called white nun shoes.
So anyway, we learn that this guy is the younger blood, the son of the doctor that has this office here. And Linda's the nurse. Linda is her name. And he wants to stay in this village for a couple months to kind of relax after coming home from Europe, from the mainland.
From Vienna.
Yeah.
Vienna.
So we also learned that Linda has been told everything about Peter Blood, that his father has raved about him and has even framed letters.
A letter that was older.
Yeah, an older letter like that from a professor that was singing his praise. So Peter has a reputation in this village, not only from growing up here, but also the fact that the local country doctor, that's his son, and he has been singing his praises for years.
Yeah, and she brings in the tea with Peter to the doctor playing chess with Morton.
Yeah,
That's
Mr. Morton. His name is G.F. Morton. Anyway, Mr. Morton is the local undertaker.
I wouldn't call him
mortician.
Mortician is what he is.
Which to me is a little weird. It's a little weird because this is a small village. Why does it need a mortician / undertaker or whatever? But he might be like the only one within miles for whatever reason. And it's clear that he's set up right next to a cemetery. And he's the only guy left that is cleaning anything.
He's definitely in a very old place, though, because
he's also old-fashioned.
And he's also old-fashioned.
Very old-fashioned. So to me, he looks like he's in his early 70s. The man is frail. He's an older gentleman, but the way he dresses seems like he hasn't stepped out of the 19-teens.
Yeah, I was thinking he was more, in the 70s.
Like in his 70s, early 70s. He could have been in his 80s.
Yes.
But what a kindly man. Like, he's there. He drinks a little bit, but he's the only guy that has ever taken care of all the families here for their burials for like years, decades and decades and decades. So he is also well respected in this community.
He lives very simply, though, you can say that.
He does live very simply. He is not a person. The only thing that he ever shows that has...
Which...
is his clothes. Like, his clothes are a little fancy, but it's only because they're old-fashioned.
They're from when he was...
like, a young man.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's never changed anything. Like, all of his money is spent on taking care of people. Like their passed away loved ones. That's what it comes across as. Because the morgue itself is actually very clean, well kept, and it's always well stocked.
Well, he said he cleaned it up because he was expecting Peter to come.
And he wanted to have Peter
and
like
he
be
has
proud.
This thing that says he was saying that
every time I clean up, a body comes in.
A
like
body
somebody
actually
dies.
comes in from the village.
So we then get the sergeant coming in with this broken hypodermic needle, and the cops think that this is another one that this guy was kidnapped last night. It's another one of these string of serial kidnapping / possible murders. So Peter Blood decides to say to the sergeant, "Hey, look, when I was a kid, I ran through the countryside here. I explored everywhere, and I went through the tin mines. I spent days and days in the tin mines. I'll lead you out there." So the sergeant's like, "Sure, fair enough." Now we flash back to the cave, and the guy that's just been kidnapped is slowly moving, trying to escape. It turns out that while he was knocked out, whatever he got injected with is slowly wearing off. Okay? And this guy, like, my heart goes out to him because this guy does not give up. He cannot move his legs. He can barely move his arms and eyes.
Even though Peter calls him nothing more than a
worthless
drunk.
This guy has a will to live that is unstoppable.
But to pay for the the liquor that he gets, the beers, he has to have had some kind of job.
He's like a farmer or something. That's what it comes across as. So
and
anyway,
farmers are not worthless.
Peter and the cops go out to the tunnels and split up, and Peter ends up in the experiment area and notices that one guy is now gone and freaks out. The cop ends up dragging Blood back before he's able to find the guy, because he's like, I thought you were lost. He was calling for him, and Peter was like, if I keep looking around, he's going to come looking for me, and he's going to find my secret experimental.
Did I miss the part? Did we miss the part about the tea and the honey in that?
Not yet.
Okay.
That's likely the next scene, since you're already
because
thinking...
I didn't write it because I couldn't keep track of things.
Yep, that's the next scene. Whenever you ask me this, it's over 100 episodes. Every time, did you skip the scene? It's literally the next scene.
I didn't say I skipped the scene, Aaron. I did not.
So he comes back. The search of the tunnels is called off, and Linda ends up picking up Peter in his car. She says that she's never been to the mines before. He's like really kind of standoffish with her at this point because he's preoccupied thinking about where this guy is gone.
And he drives like a maniac down these small roads.
So Linda, he drops Linda off and he sprints back to the hideout, and the guy has already crawled out of the mines and onto the surface while Peter searches and fails to find him. So now we go to the scene with the honey.
Honey, quote.
Peter
quote,
flirts
unquote.
with Linda, and Peter's father is analyzing the liquid, saying that, hey, it's some sort of organic compound. I don't really know what the hell it is. We're going to have to take it to the Plymouth Hospital to get a spectrogram on it.
And the sergeant comes in and tells him to go to bed because he's been up all night.
So Linda finds a strange container in Peter's jacket, and Peter's like, oh, look, this is a old like container that somebody in Vienna gave me that came from his great-grandfather, and it's like this weird...
From Africa.
Yeah, it's Africa, but it contained like this neurotoxin. So he's being completely upfront with it, but he's like, no, right now it's just filled with honey. Do you want to taste? And she doesn't.
He tastes it.
Yeah, he tastes it, because I guess like the top of it
and
really
it's
is
Kura or something like that.
Doesn't matter. So the cops end up finding the escaped man in a ravine, and Blood goes out with a syringe filled with adrenaline to like wake him up, because the cops are like, we need to wake him up. We found this guy that was kidnapped. He's just babbling. He's clearly partially paralyzed with something, but we think it's a drug because whatever. So he goes out with the cops and kills him, this poor guy, with an injection. Now, because he's well respected by the community, Peter, because of everything that his father said, they think this guy just died randomly from whatever had gotten him before. They don't even suspect the fact that Peter's the one that just killed him.
Why would they, when he's the prized son of their
Exactly.
prized doctor?
Exactly. That's what makes this movie kind of gruesome, is that this guy is so well loved and respected, that it's kind of like passed along to his son. So Blood then takes the body back to the mortuary, and when there, we actually see Peter injecting the body again and covering it with a sheet.
But during the day, he goes and takes Nurse Linda to St. Ives.
No, he says he wants to take her to St. Ives. Again, the next scene is them going out to the sea and having this nice conversation. They're not at St. Ives. They're actually still near the village by the tin mines. Okay. He returns to the morgue that night, and the man's eyes are moving still. So it actually turns out that Peter didn't kill this guy. He actually injected him again with like this stuff to knock him out and paralyze him. And Peter basically just starts dissecting the guy while he's still alive. And this is where the mortician, Mr. Morton, sees that this guy is still alive. He like walks in and sees this guy is still alive, and tries to stop Peter from doing whatever he's doing.
Well, he has his chest open for heart.
And the heart's beating. Yeah.
Heart.
But Peter ends up pushing him away and accidentally kills Mr. Morton. And that's kind of tragic.
Because he goes on, and his head hits the cast
banister.
iron
I thought it was
spiral
like a staircasing.
staircasing.
Yeah. And like here we are. I don't know how long I've been like talking about this plot, like let's say 20 minutes. This is an hour's worth of the film, and you're not bored in it. There's lots of dialogue that's happening in this. But we then get to the point where Peter and Linda are he's trying to flirt with her, and he takes her into the tunnels, and they're about to kiss when an old miner walks up on them. And they leave. And this miner isn't just like a character to stop them from kissing. It's actually a thing for them. Well, let's say the miner comes back later on.
Yes.
Okay, so the police sergeant comes back into the mortuary, and it turns out that he has come back with the elder Dr. Blood. Peter shows up, and the cops question him about the mortician disappearing. And then Linda arrives and drives with him out somewhere, but Peter ends up going to talk to this wildcat miner that they met. And it turns out that he kills him. So the miner shows up with a bad head wound. The elder Dr. Blood is now back in town and knows that what poison was used to paralyze these people. And that it was this strange poison from Africa. And boy, Linda's like, I've heard about that. Oh no, Peter's the guy that's been doing all of this. So Linda walks in on Peter at the mortuary over the body of the miner and the open poison container. She tries to run, but he stops her, and there's this long kind of dialogue between them about him wanting to bring the dead back to life and how certain people are worthy of being alive and certain people aren't.
And she says you can't play God.
You can't play God. And this is the discussion that we were talking about earlier.
There's a cross in the background because this is the funeral.
But this is the conversation between them about like medical ethics that they were talking that we mentioned earlier that was fantastic. And it's maybe 3 minutes long, but it's worth watching again and again. Like it really is good. So Linda ends up getting away because the miner that's on the table is still alive, and he knocks over the poison container, and I guess it dumps all over the floor. She's able to run away and get the police, and Peter's like, oh my God, I'm screwed. He runs back to the tunnels with this wildcat miner. He then starts. Okay, let me start again. He then comes back into the village and digs up Linda's dead husband, who's been dead for like 3 years.
Because in the conversation, he said you'd have a different point of view if it was your Stephen that
is dead. Your dead husband.
Your dead husband comes back.
So he ends up killing this miner, pulling his heart out and putting the heart into the corpse, the 3-year dead corpse.
That has lichen growing on him.
Like it's clearly been it has had embalming done. Let's put it that way, and that's why it hasn't completely just turned to bone over 3 years. So there's still flesh, but it's really ganky looking. It wakes up and asks for Linda, and I'm like, okay, all right, that's pretty creepy.
At this time, Sergeant Cook is calling for 40 plus men and asks for an all points bowl of
Bolton to look for Peter. But Peter goes back into the village and goes to Linda's home and kidnaps her. And he takes her back to the mines where she sees her dead husband standing there like a zombie. And obviously she's shocked. Who wouldn't be? My God, who would not be shocked at this? She calls him an evil. He's evil. He's like the devil. And the zombie then attacks her and then Peter because Peter tries to interpose himself between the zombie and Linda. Like he has that shred of decency in him enough that he's like, no, you don't attack a woman. At the very least, I'm not. This guy is evil, but he at least
stopped the strangling
of Linda.
And
they struggle and break a whole bunch of chemical bottles that start to smoke. The zombie ends up killing Peter by choking him out, and Linda escapes out of the caves to find the police searching for her on the beach.
The search party.
Yeah, the search party.
Because I don't think they were searching for her. I think they were just the search party.
Yeah, the general search party. They're shocked to see her. The end. Okay. Now, again, I've only spent, let's say, 25 minutes talking about this film. This film is an hour and a half long. And I can't think of a single scene that is wasted.
No,
Every scene in this is solid.
And one of the things you didn't mention was when they found that container.
Yeah.
Both Linda and his father was there.
Yeah.
And those two actors did wonderful job with emoting from their face.
Just going, oh my God.
It clearly made the evidence 100% against Peter.
Yeah. So we're a half hour into this. We love this movie. And what works? What's your top thing that works in this movie, Darlene? There's so many things that actually work in this movie, but
I don't know. It stands between the plot being working well, which we
good.
haven't had in a while.
Yeah, this is a solid plot.
And the actors bringing it out.
Yes, I will actually agree with you that I think it is a very hard decision to choose between either the plot being solid. And when I say plot, I'm talking about the pacing of this movie. There are no boring parts. There are no wasted scenes. There's not really any wasted dialogue because every piece of dialogue in this movie lets you get to know a character a little bit more or care about them.
Even the secondary characters.
Yeah, the secondary characters that you meet in this are important.
Bill is standing there with his big, huge bottle, his cup of beer.
Yeah.
In the first scene.
So you recognize the fact that this guy's supposedly a drunkard or whatever.
But he actually has intelligence.
But he's smart. Yeah. It's just that, he likes his beer. Big deal.
Because he's the one that said maybe we should look through the mines to...
Yeah, because the mines are huge, these tin mines. The plot is the pacing, the characters which are included in secondary characters all have something to say and contribute to the movie. And then the other half of that is the acting. Specifically, Kieran Moore as Peter Blood and Hazel Court as Linda, the nurse. Hazel Court in this movie, I was blown away by. Because we've seen her in other movies. We have seen her in other movies. But she truly does stand out. And
we stopped the film at one point where they were on their trip that day that they had together.
Yeah.
And he's there and you see not the emotion of a romance, but you see it written all over her face.
Yes, and it's just great acting that they're playing against each other.
He's being charming and
he's being charming and cold, like manipulative, where she's actually warm with her flirting. And there's this, we paused it right at this one frame where she has this beautiful smile, like with like a half laugh on her face, and he's just kind of looking at her blankly. And we're like, wow, that says everything about these characters, because he really isn't. Maybe he is slightly falling for her.
Slightly falling for her.
But it's more of like he's more concerned about his experiment and what she's figuring out on her own. Because in many ways, Linda's the one that's slowly piecing things together. Like she has all the clues, and subconsciously she knows what's going wrong.
But you have him deciding to come home, quote unquote, to snafu the stuff
from his father.
From
because
his father.
He needs the stuff that's out of his office, basically.
But not just out of the office, but to see where the investigation is going.
Yes.
Because he
would already been set up.
He's already everything he does is to keep his name clear.
Yes. So those are the two big ones, but what are the secondary good ones? Like
that they used a setting that was a village.
Yes.
And it worked out wonderfully.
Yes. Because you're not in the village that often, but what you do see of the village, it's a small country village. It's in the Cornish countryside.
You even
sea.
actually have two people walking down the side that aren't supposed to be in the film.
But they don't stand out. Like, that's the thing.
No,
like,
they don't stand out, but they weren't supposed to be in the film.
Like, when they drive out to the old tin mines, the ruins of the old mining buildings there are fantastic. They're realistic. It's clear that these have not been abandoned for a century like they would be today, but like 50 years. These clearly probably shut down around World War I or maybe right after World War I. And you see that. It looks good. These are probably real places. I would have to assume
and
they are.
Having the catter there,
yeah,
would be there, because he even explains that, well, to mine these things as a big company would not work.
It's not profitable after. That's why they closed it down. But if I go through here,
I can still get some.
I can make money. And he talks about, like, one of his friends found like a little bit of gold, but it turns out that it was somebody had buried something in this old mine up north, and great, he made a lot of money off of it. And you know what? I don't expect to have that happen to me, but one can hope. He's like, I can have hope.
And you get the sense that this miner is living in that lean-to.
Yeah, he's just kind of I won't say homeless, because you can say that he's just living rough. Let's put it that way. And what a cool character. Like, just, hey, we're going to show up, and there's this cool miner that talks about why people are going to these mines. Still.
Well, it's the difference between being a vagabond and a hobo in the United States.
I don't know. I always forget the proper definition of it. But the point is that as a side character, as a very secondary background character, here's a guy that has a few lines, and he sets up his character really well. With just a few lines, you get to kind of know what this character is about. I highly support this kind of writing.
And that everybody happens to be quite friendly with each other, because even he, a complete stranger, offers dinner, which is something a lot of people do.
You want some coffee? You want to sit down and have some dinner? And to Peter, who's clearly well-to-do, where he's just this wildcatter who's out there living in a lean-to next to this old tin mine. And this guy's totally open to having this nice man from the village sit down with him and share a dinner. Yeah, and it's, I don't know, I felt bad for this miner. Like, Peter just offs this guy. He's like, he's not worthy of living. Look at him. He's homeless, and he's just living in this, like, digging in a mine where I can bring back your dead husband, Linda, with his heart. It's like,
well, he
dude.
wasn't expecting to do that. There's somebody else that they didn't even say who it is that he's trying to bring back.
Yeah.
Somebody that is already in the...
You
never get who it is, but...
I don't think that is who he's trying to bring back. I think he's just experimenting. Because
he was saying great scientists are being wasted.
Yeah, that people's lives end, and that just shouldn't be. It
kind of goes back to World War II and the eugenics idea of...
I don't know. I don't know if I want to go that far. I really don't think I want to go that far. But there, the setting...
It kind of touches on that, though.
The cars
are great.
I mean, that's such a
the
minor
police
thing.
Car. Oh my God, I want that.
All of the cars are beautiful in it. You know what works as well, Darlene? The sets.
I told you that.
Sets are fantastic. Yeah, the sets are fantastic. But I mean, like, the doctor's office is beautiful.
He has both a grandfather clock and a grandmother clock in that same room.
I like that Linda makes coffee on a Bunsen burner in the lab.
Because the lab is the kitchen.
Yeah, and it's cute, though. And I remember, like, she pulls in the little bottle of milk that's left on the the steps coming into the office in the morning, because you get your milk from the milkman.
But this is his house, too, because upstairs is the doctor's...
the apartment, so to speak.
The doctor's home. So it's the doctor's home, just like Morton's mortician's place.
He lives there.
He lives there. I even think that he lives on the first floor.
Yeah, he does. Because
and he
you
stores
walk
his
from
alcohol in the crypt.
Nothing. It's the actual basically the
Fridge.
Yeah, the mortuary like drawer.
And it's definitely whiskey.
Yeah, it is. And he drinks, but you know what? Man's like in his 70s. Let him drink, right? Unfortunately, when Peter kills him, like you could tell he's kind of a frail man because he just like smacks up against that banister, the wrought iron banister.
The wrought iron
the makeup
steps.
The makeup and lighting makes it look like his skull is caved in from it. And I'm like, wow, because there's like blood coming out of his ears. So the guy was like frail, but again, just the use of lighting and a little bit of makeup makes it look like his head is caved in. Holy crap. Good job. The makeup in this, besides like the zombie makeup, which I think is fairly standard when they bring back Linda's dead husband, that's
they
standard.
actually put like lichen on him.
Yeah, it looks like that, but I'm saying I don't think that rises to the whole like, wow, this worked. I think that's pretty standard. I'm not going to say nothing. It didn't work, but like the regular makeup that they were using on people, like to make them look pale or whatever when they were hit
or
with
sickly,
this,
or like Beale, they put gray paint on him.
Yeah, but it worked. It looked good. What else can we geek out about this movie? Because it really is good. The dialogue's good. The plot is good. The characters are good. The acting is good. The setting is good. The sets are good.
What do you think that modern
pacing? Watch this movie for pacing because this is a horror movie that has sci-fi elements, but this is a horror movie that you know who the villain is, you know what's going on, but there's all the tension in the world that continues to build up. You don't need to have a mystery about who's doing what to whom, because here it's all spelled out for you in the first 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah, but it's also that the writers made you like the characters.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say is that
you even like the villain, but you're then
I don't know. The villain's interesting.
When he first comes in, you think he's a cute and adorable, just a male that is being what he is.
He's charming, but you know that there's something wrong, and obviously in the first 10 minutes you realize he's the dude that's doing all this. So you don't like him.
But it's that little second that they did with her and the bending over and that whole conversation.
Yeah.
You want to like him.
You want to, even after you know what he's doing. Because he's charming, because there's chemistry on screen between him and Linda, between Kieran Moore and Hazel Court, you do want to like him. You want him to learn his lesson and stop somehow or change, something like that. You care about his character's arc at the very least. I mean, at some point he becomes irredeemable. That's fair. Yeah, he does.
He becomes irredeemable at the time where she's talking to him. He's killed Morton.
Yeah.
Well,
as soon as he kills Morton, he's screw him. He needs to stop. He's done. He is like,
because this is the person he knew from childhood.
Yeah, they like Mr. Morton liked Peter. Remembered him running around the house as a kid. Like, folks, and these secondary characters, like we said, you learn to love these secondary characters, and they all world build. They all help build the world around the two main characters of Peter Blood and Linda.
And you find out his mother died when he was like 5.
Yeah. See, we can sit here and talk like it's an hour and a half movie where every scene has information that helps build this world.
So this whole village that he's now destroying has basically raised him.
I will argue that Peter has destroyed this village in the end.
Yes.
Because knowing what we know about his father will either end up offing himself out of shame or moving away, and that means there won't be another country
or
doctor.
Shutting down his thing.
Moving away. Like,
I don't think he'd move away because he still has the nurse to take care.
No, I think out of shame
'Cause
that his son did this.
In the end, you see them two holding each other on the beach, on that big boulder beach.
With the elder Dr. Blood.
The older Dr. Bud is holding her.
I think he would either kill himself out of shame or move away out of shame. Still, he would take Linda with him.
Maybe.
But this village, as small as it was, is dead now because no one's going to trust another doctor to come in here. No one's going to want to live around these mines with what's happened in these mines. And you still have like 3 or 4 of the main people that used to live here as like prominent citizens are dead. And it does not seem like this is a very large village. This is like a village of maybe 50, 60 people. And suddenly you've lost maybe 10% of the population from a psychopathic murderer.
The high 10% too.
The people that actually had businesses or were the ones kind of holding the community together. This is tragic in a lot of ways. Like I said, the only thing I can think of in this movie that does not work, it is incredibly petty. It is the day for night shots. That's my only complaint. Otherwise, I'm saying not only do I recommend this, I highly recommend it. This is a 9 out of 10 film. This is a 9.5 out of 10 film. I don't even want to have more of this film. I think this movie is perfectly good at 90-something minutes long. It doesn't need to be longer. It doesn't need to be shorter.
It's just, this is what I thought you were going to say, is that we're always saying you needed to cut out this or you needed to add this. This one, no.
Nope. This is exactly what you need. And
it isn't like they, as jarring as that one was, where we went from one scene to the little girl.
Oh, yeah.
And because they're essential, but they didn't actually.
The last film that we watched,
the last film,
Strange, the invasion of the Strange Planet X or whatever.
It didn't flow well.
This flows perfectly. This is a good Halloween film, in fact, because it's creepy. There's tension, even though you know who the villain is. Again, this is a good horror film. It's also science fiction. There's zombies and like a person trying to reanimate the dead. Yes, it's science fiction.
You're wishing for the villain to become better.
Up until the point where he's irredeemable.
Yeah, until he's irredeemable. And then you're like, oh shit, he's going to go after Linda.
But I would also say that depending on who you are watching this film, Peter might be irredeemable from the beginning, which is where I kind of thought he was irredeemable from the beginning with his unethical experiments in Vienna. You just hope that he's going to stop.
And you realize through the thing that he doesn't want to go to wherever his father went to get
Plymouth Hospital.
Plymouth Hospital, because he's already got the bad rep.
No, it's not the bad rep. It's because he has people. He doesn't go because there's people in his cave that he's still trying to deal with.
Oh, you think it's that, and then not the firing of?
Yeah, I guarantee you. And it's because the sergeant's going to be gone and his father's going to be gone, so he's going to have free reign of all the stuff that he needs to do this experiment. Yes, he wants to stay because there's no one stopping him at this point. Fantastic movie. This is in our unsung gems, like Monolith Monsters, for sure. Highly recommended. It's free on Amazon Prime. This is a movie I want to have on Blu-ray.
So you're going to buy it?
I want to ensure that the corporate overlords understand that they should support good movies, and this is an example of a good movie. This is really good. I should not keep just like spewing love out, but when we have one of these films, I want to make sure our listeners understand, see this. I might love some trash. I love my trash movies sometimes.
This is a good movie.
This is a good movie. Honest to God.
It's what you want to expect of a movie.
Yeah.
a story.
Characters, actors, and actresses that you
they don't grow, but in this short of a time, it's like, what, a week?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Linda does, because she slowly kind of is getting over the death of her husband and is starting to flirt with Peter and learning that she can love again, and then that's smashed. And that's another tragic part of this freaking story, is
Yes,
that
this is a tragedy.
Linda is scarred again about this. Who it wouldn't be seeing her own dead husband
go to strangle her,
strangling her. This poor woman. But she's strong enough to leave, to basically just leave. She's not like shocked into catatonia or anything like that. She's like, screw this, I'm out. This is effed. I'm done. And she goes out and encounters the police, and
gets hugged by Robert Blood.
I don't know. We love this movie. This is good. Please watch it, folks. Please watch it. Well, we should end it there. Otherwise, I'm just going to continue praising this movie over and over again. Is there any other thoughts that you want to say about this movie?
I want to say that if you're a film student, watch this movie to see how things should be.
Pacing,
and
that kind of stuff.
Not how they are.
You can have long, lingering shots.
On stupid little things, too.
Yeah, you can.
Like him taking out the syringe.
You don't have to have jerky cam. You don't need to have like.
They did use the Dutch angle.
But
the Dutch angle was when he was doing the surgery on Bill, or was it? It
was one of his experiments, and you realize, well, that's a good use of the Dutch angle, because the Dutch angle is there to suggest unbalancedness, that there's something strange happening. And it was a perfect use of a Dutch angle, and it was used once. So we should stop there. Please watch this movie. This is Dr. Blood's Coffin from 1962. It's a British film. We loved it. So I'm Aaron.
I'm Darlene. Good evening.
And keep watching the skies.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.